Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Are Manchester City in crisis and who's going to win the Premier League? I got that the wrong way round, but the fact remains the same. Man, it feels like every year at this time, I think last season I did it and the year before, we do a video on Man City in crisis and then they go and win the league. So I'm very aware of that, but also they've just lost 2 games in a row for the first time in about 6 years. So they are in a crisis. Now, whether it's a permanent crisis or a mini crisis, that's to be discussed. One thing I would say at the start is I don't do videos for shock tactics. I don't start coming out with stupid statements about Man City are done, they fell off, or, Arsenal are going to win the league now. That's not what I do. There's no point in doing that. But what I do is look at it, get your comments in it, and let's have a proper conversation about it. Because there is some sensational crap out there. I mean, this talk about Erling Haaland falling off is incredibly naive. Erling Haaland's the best striker in the world. I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He is the best striker in the world, and he still is today. And he was yesterday, and he will be tomorrow. If you are a striker and you play in a team that gives you no service, your XG will be 0, your shots on target will be 0, and you will wake up the next day to pictures of Saliba having you in the pocket with the car keys. There was no service to Erling Haaland yesterday, and he is not a striker that drops deep, runs past 3 or 4 players and scores. He is not a striker that shoots from 40 yards in the top corner. He is a service striker, and if you deprive them of service, he will not score goals. So it's incredibly naive, and it has to just go down as banter when people are saying Haaland's finished, because he's not. He's always been about service, and if he played up front for United last year, he'd have a lot of games like he did yesterday for Arsenal. If he played up front for Bournemouth, he'd have a lot of games like he did against Arsenal, because he requires service. That's how you build a team like Man City. It's very important that every part goes together, and it just didn't work yesterday. Manchester City's biggest problem at the moment is not even De Bruyne. Rodri is the engine room of that team. Last year, Casemiro should have won Player of the Year for Man United. Rashford won it for his goals. But everybody knows who watched United last season that Casemiro was the conductor. He protected the defence and he, fed the attack from the deep. And Rodri does that way better than Casemiro. Like, Rodri is, unfortunately, I have to say, the best holding midfielder in the world. He's absolutely incredible. Manchester City's ability to win games without him is, there factually in the stats. They struggle. And when he's there, they don't. So when he comes back, Man City will be fine. But Man City are in a mini crisis, like they are. And whether it's going to be permanent or not, one thing that is worth looking at is that when they come back from the international break, yes, they've got they've got Brighton at home. I mean, you'd say it's winnable. It's a very winnable game, but it's Brighton at home. It's not necessarily easy. Man United away after that. So Man City come back from 2 losses in a row and face 2 games where, look, they'll probably beat Brighton and they'll probably beat Man United at Old Trafford. But, the world and I am like, bloody hell, it's a Manchester derby. We've done it before. We beat City with Ollie. We beat City with Mourinho. We can do it. We can do it. We did it with Ten Hag last year. We can do it. So Brighton can do it as well. So you start to think, well, bloody hell, if Man City don't win their next 2 games, that gap gets bigger in the league as well. But it doesn't get much better than that. Because, all right, they've got Bournemouth at home after that, but then they play Chelsea, Liverpool, and then they play, in early December, Spurs and Villa. So, look, in their next 7 games, they've got Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea, Spurs, Brighton, and Manchester United. So, look, Man City are capable of winning all those games. We know they are, but they are in a crisis. They've lost 2 in a row. There's a vulnerability there. They're not scoring goals, and Rodri coming back will help, and De Bruyne coming back will help, and they're still a really, really good team. But there's a massive opportunity there. There's an opportunity for the Arsenals and the Liverpools and everybody else. But the problem is they'll probably start beating each other, won't they? Which is great as long as Man City don't run away with it. Do I think Man City are not going to win the league this year? Absolutely not. I think they will win the league. I think that the thing about Manchester City is they always, and that's why I mentioned it at the start, they always drop points in the autumn. And that is why I've done this video for 3 years in a row now. And that is why in May, I'll probably be saying they've won the league for 3 years in a row. They will hit January and everybody will expect Man City to just time it to perfection like Pep does, the fitness, the mentality, the consistency, and suddenly they don't really lose a game from February till May, and they know what they're doing because they've been there before. And I think that happens again. And obviously they do get stronger when they've got the likes of De Bruyne back. But there is an opportunity there for teams, and I think when you look at those next few games where they play Brighton, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, Villa, they've got to drop points in 2 of those games. They have to drop points in those 2 games, because if they lose a couple more games before Christmas, it will open it up a little bit more. And other teams have got to be consistent. But the one thing I feel I haven't done, it's easy to say Man City are in a crisis. It's easy to say they'll bounce back and win the league in the new year. But is there a bigger problem with Manchester City in relation to, I felt last year it was a transition. Jesus, Zinchenko left, Sterling left, and I thought, Erling Haaland comes in, but does it automatically work? And I felt that last season was a transitional season for Man City, and yet they still won the treble. This is a transitional season as well. I think Mahrez was always massively, massively underrated. I think Gundogan is a player that also was superb for them last season. So that's 2 players straight away that you go, well, that they are a loss. They're a loss to Manchester City. They've still brought players in like Kovacic, Vardiel's come in as well. Alvarez is better, but I don't think they're weaker. I think that there's always the opportunity, and I'm using that word a lot because it is an opportunity for everybody. There's always that opportunity that Man City may not transition as well as they did last year when they lost a few players, and maybe that will happen. But on the other hand, I still think they are the best team in the world, and I still think it would be a huge surprise if they weren't up there again in May, because they've got the know-how, they've got the quality, and they've certainly got the players. And I feel that it would be wrong to suddenly think that this isn't going to be their year again. But what I would say is the next few weeks will really make us decide whether they are human, whether they are gettable, because at the moment they're gettable. They've lost 2 games in a row. There are games coming up. I think United have got to get them. We've got to get them at Old Trafford in a couple of weeks. I think Brighton at the Etihad have got to, go there and get them. They've not, I remember Fulham at Fulham should have gone in at half time 1-1. The offside that wasn't offside changes the game. So teams have pushed City a little bit this season, and that's why they've lost a couple of games. And I think in certain other games they've been a bit vulnerable as well. So, as I say, opportunity is the word. It is a crisis for Manchester City. Of course it's a crisis for Manchester City. Anybody who says it's not is a fool, because they've lost 2 games in a row, and they've just lost to Arsenal. And that never happens. The master always beats the apprentice, and that didn't happen this time. So it is a mini crisis for Manchester City. Do I think it will turn into a bigger one? I hope so. But I think history has shown us, recent history, that they will bounce back from this, because they always do lose a game or 2 in autumn, and then in the new year it's bye-bye everybody else. And I still think, not only do I think they'll win the league, I also think there's a very, very realistic possibility that come May, they might be doing a double treble. So, let's not dismiss them completely yet. But look, they're vulnerable at the moment. They're gettable at the moment. And as I said, those run of games they've got coming up, I mean, if they go and win all those games, you may as well give them the title. Like Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Brighton, there's 6 games there that are difficult. At least 2 of those teams have got to take points from them. And if they do, then we'll be sat here at Christmas saying we've got a title race. And that's what we want, because we all love football. Make sure you smash the like and get your comments in below. Subscribe as usual. Be interested to see what your thoughts are. I'll speak to you soon.